We still got it? Oh, whoa, it's a big one too.
I'm glad you brought that up. I haven't thought about that. Every season finale, like I've been like crying reading it.
Good morning, ScreenRant, and welcome to Coffee Chats, and I am stoked to be joined by the one and only Mr. Joel Kinnaman. Joel, thanks so much for being on Coffee Chats, and guess what? You're our 10th guest. This is the 10th episode of Coffee Chats.
I feel so honored.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, you are a man who needs some coffee. You've been saying this since he got here, so we're gonna dive right into it. And Joel kept it simple. Joel said he wanted just black coffee.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hot black coffee, that's your go-to?
I think usually I have like a double espresso with a little hot water. That's my, or if I make I make my own nut milk.
Your own nut milk?
Yeah.
What is that process like?
Coconut and cashews.
Wow. Okay. Hot black coffee. Never iced?
Yeah, I'll do like an iced espresso if it's a warm summer day.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice.
Not too hot?
No, it's perfect.
Okay, good stuff. Joel, you're a busy man right now.
Yeah, it's been...
Probably I was gonna say busiest man in Hollywood, but that's not even accurate because you got a project from Norway out right now.
Yeah. But it's on Netflix, so I guess it still counts for Hollywood.
Sure, but still, 3 projects airing right now. Detective Hula, did I pronounce that correctly?
It's so funny.
Did I get it right?
It's like, I mean, I don't know what Netflix is telling people to how they want it. Everyone's saying like, I did Chris Evans' a morning show in London, and he was like, Detective Hule! And yeah, I guess it's tough when a character's name is Harry Hole. And you know, I guess you don't want to go into the Harry Hole. you want to, so they're trying to repronounce it like Hule, hole.
How did it feel to do a project in that language? Was it refreshing?
Yeah, for me, it was. You know, I came to the States like 15 years ago, around 2010. I started working here, and then I haven't done anything back home since then. So yeah, it was trippy, and I was like halfway through, I was a little bummed with myself because like when I moved to the States, so my dad's American, so I you know, English has always been like an emotional language for me. Sometimes when you learn a second language, it's hard to kind of be emotional in that language. So for me, I didn't have that problem. But still, like the dialect, you know, it was about like trying to sound like American. When I saw text in Swedish, then I automatically would, you know, I would see 3-4 ways of saying it, how to rhythmize the language. I was much more creative, like in the language when I saw a text. But in English, it was more like just kind of getting it right, making it sound American. And then over the years, like I found like, oh, now I sort of feel like I acquired that ability in English too, that I could find the same level of creativity in the language. And when I went back now and I shot this in Swedish, I realized like, fuck, like I have another gear in Swedish that I just haven't been using for 15 years.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of an aha moment for me. Like I need to be doing stuff in Swedish in Sweden regularly.
Yeah, you've played all types of characters in your careers. I don't want to say you've leaned super heavy on protagonist versus antagonist, but you're a pretty bad guy here in Detective. I don't want Hole. Should I just say Hole on camera? Is that fine?
Yeah, Hole.
Okay, because again,
Detective Hole.
Here,
Yeah.
Detective Hole. Your character, you're full on the bad guy.
Oh yeah, he's a juicy bad guy.
Yeah. How did it feel to kind of go dive deep into that side, and also too, like it's a very complex role. You're not just playing a one-note mustache-twirling villain.
No, you know, it's like it's rarely you get the opportunity to cut a man's penis off, and so I really I felt very humble, and it just felt like this was such an opportunity to get to do something like that. So I just felt very, very humbled and honored that they chose me to do the cutting.
Let's talk about Imperfect Woman.
Yeah.
That's a show that's airing every single week on Apple TV.
Yeah.
Kicked off with a big 2-episode premiere. Gave me a lot of Gone Girl vibes. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Gone Girl, little Big Little Lies, kind of, that's sort of in that vein for sure.
Yeah. How did it feel to go into a big drama like that?
I had so much fun shooting that show. I'd just gone from this project that I was shooting in Egypt, which was really heavy, and I was a producer on it, and it was just a lot of headaches, and I had a lot of responsibility. And here, I just got to step in. I could just be an actor, and had these incredible cast, these incredible women like Kerry Washington, Kay Mara, Elizabeth Moss, and it was like a fantastic cast. But they were like really, you know, it was like a lot of powerhouse women on that show, and it was juicy, well-written scripts, and I had a really fun character I got to play. I hadn't played like American upper class before, which was fun. Yeah.
I can't waste another minute without talking about For All Mankind with you, Joel.
Yeah.
I love this series so much. I just thought the concept was so genius. We're going to take this one little wrinkle in history and shift one thing and watch the dominoes fall.
Yeah.
When this was first brought to you, way back when, before season 1, was it initially pitched to you of just that one domino?
No, I got the sort of 7-season pitch.
From the get-go?
I think they gave me the 5-season pitch, and now I think it ended up being 6 seasons. You know, there's some things that have shifted, but it's actually pretty remarkable. I'm glad you brought that up. I haven't thought about that. I still remember I was sitting on the south side of Södermalm in Stockholm, and I had this Skype conversation with Ron, Matt, and Ben, and they sort of laid it out, and I remember that conversation so well, and now seeing like the whole show, it's like there are things that have shifted, but very much remains the same. That vision was pretty clear, and then it's gotten filled out in a way that's very specific, and that they didn't sort of share with me, but the general outline is pretty much there.
And Ed Baldwin is fair to say the character you've lived in the most in your career. You've spent the most time with this one singular character.
Yeah.
Is that just like wild when you shift back into his mindset, how much years of life you've put into this character?
Yeah, it's really emotional. Like, I don't know, I've been so affected by this process. And I think there's something because I'm aging, 10 years every season. And then at the same time, I've been shooting this show for 7 years. More, even almost 7, 8 years. Because we had like a little COVID and strike slowdowns. And so it's been with me for like a real era of my life, like an entire era of my life. And then seeing, myself in the mirror, in the makeup chair, like age, you see yourself in these different phases of life, and it does something to your psyche because it's a show. It's not, you're not doing like, an epilogue scene in a movie where you put on some age makeup and you do a couple of scenes. It's like I'm in there for 6 months every day, doing this, looking myself in the mirror at this different age. So. And I'm also going into the aging process physically. How will it change my body? How will it change my mind? How will I change? And so it's a really like fascinating lens to like look at life and aging and get to sort of experience it in a psychological way over the course of these years. And particularly when I was the 5th season, when Ed's 82 and he's similar age to my dad, and it's it was a really kind of profound inner process for me to do this, and I was incredibly affected by it, like more affected by it than anything else that I've done before. And it's also testament to the writing of the show that to me has been on such a consistent high level, and you have this sort of grand, very exciting way to tell like sort of a sci-fi story of humanity reaching further out into space than what we have, but at the same time, such a great characterization of these characters and their relationships, and consistently writing the stories of these people in a way that becomes so emotional. I felt it so emotional too. I mean, I think every season finale, like I've been like crying reading it, and when I watch it too, it just makes me so proud to be part of something that I think can play so strongly on those two levels, where it really gives us this sort of also optimistic vision of what the future could be, or what we could have been, but at the same time, you know, having that emotional resonance within these characters and really making it feel like it means something. So it's really such an honor to be part of a project like that.
For All Mankind, we just got the news. We're wrapping up with season 6. Right now, season 5 is airing. Has that sunk in yet? I'm sure, you know, you haven't started filming season 6 yet.
No, it starts in a few months.
Gotcha. But has that, you know, you're about to close a huge chapter of your career, arguably the longest chapter of your career. It is wild to eventually say goodbye to Ed Baldwin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a character you've lived in for so long. Another character, is it fair to say we've said goodbye to Rick Flag?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, a character I didn't expect to say a full goodbye to. It almost feels like he got a nice epilogue last summer with Peacemaker season 2.
An alternate universe, mealy mouth Rick, as me and James called him.
It was, well, I was saying to you before we started rolling, it was a true proper surprise for me to see him in Peacemaker season 2, just because he was so tethered to the old DCU, so to speak.
Well, I'm very bad at keeping secrets. You know, when I was shooting the Suicide Squad stuff, where I feel like the only ones who care about secrets are people that are involved with the sort of superhero stuff. So they were always like on me with any interviews because I would spoil stuff in a. But since I don't really have social media anymore, it's a lot easier to not make those mistakes.
Sure. Did you and James keep in constant contact after the Suicide Squad, the one we saw in 2021?
Yeah, we're friends, so you know we talk every now and then.
Gotcha. So what was the process of you getting back involved with the DC world?
He just called me and, you know, asked if I wanted to come in, and, you know, he was like, there's this little fun thing I'd love for you to do. And I was like, yeah, I'll come play with you anytime. If
I'm recalling correctly, because I did interviews for Peacemaker season 2, James, I believe, told me that it was always the plan for Rick Flag to pop in the second season of Peacemaker. Was that how it was pitched to you?
No, but, you know, he's a mad genius, so it's hard to know what goes on in that crazy brain of his.
Yeah. That version of Rick Flag, did it feel like a completely separate character?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so it wasn't necessarily, that's why I call it an epilogue, because I feel like you got the proper send-off in Suicide Squad 2021.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was just kind of like a fun little button to put on the
and
character.
you know, James knows that like I want to do more comedy, and he thinks I'm funny, so that's why he wanted to write something that was, you know, kind of playing to that, and you know.
Yeah, is that a goal of yours right now in your career, to lean more into comedy?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Like, I've just done these little like bits here and there, and it's fun. It's nice when everything doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
One last question on the Suicide Squad note: were you one of the cast members that also got a tattoo?
Yes.
The squad, SKWAD, right? Yeah. We still got it? Oh, whoa! It's a big one too.
Yeah, I went first.
You went first.
Yeah. So then everyone else was getting these like tiny little ones. I was like, wait, what's this? This is not what we agreed on. And they were like, we didn't say how big it was going to be. I was like, motherfuckers.
Do you remember how many of the original cast members got it? Was it all of you?
Yeah, except Will.
Except Will.
Yeah, Will did mine.
Will did your tattoo.
Yeah, that's why it's so terrible.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and it's special too, because we have a lot of superhero ensembles nowadays. It seemed like you guys on that 2016 film were such a tight-knit crew.
Yeah, it was a fun, crazy time.
Yeah, and then when James takes the reins, how different did that ensemble feel?
So different. Yeah, it was so much more professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, I was very unprofessional in that one. We were like partying all the time.
2016.
Yeah, 2016. I mean,
Yeah, that 2021 film, remind me again, was it shot during COVID?
And was it?
2021.
I think we finished it right before. Yeah, we finished it right before COVID.
Yes, because I remember there was the big DC Fandom event where I think they may have played some trailer footage, and that was August of 2020.
Yeah, well, I think we were done right before.
Okay.
And then it came out. We thought that it was gonna come out like, oh, right, like COVID's kind of over. And then like the Delta wave hit right on our opening weekend. I remember that.
We've talked so much about, your projects that you have coming out right now. We've hit on some ones in the past of your career. When a fan comes up to you and says, man, I really loved you in this, what's the one project that like means a little bit more to you when someone says they loved your work in that particular project? Because I'm sure you get Rick Flag all the time. I'm sure you get For All Mankind all the time.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's almost a little depressing. But I still get like so much love for The Killing, and the character that I played in The Killing, Stephen Holder. Yeah, and it's just a little depressing because it was it's like the first job that I did in the U.S. So it was a long time ago. But of course, I'm very happy that that character like really like hit home and still, and I think the show is not aging terribly. And I had a peek at it a few months ago. I just like watched this. There was a scene. It was something that I was reading now that reminded me of a scene. So I went back and looked at a scene, and I looked at it, and I was like, yeah, it's like it really works. And yeah, I think there was just something with that character, the way that he was sort of broken and fucked up, but you could really feel like he was also a good guy underneath, and he had a big heart, even though he didn't always know how to conduct himself. And there's something human about his fragility, and just it was just a very contrasting character. It was very well written, but it was also a really enjoyable collaboration between me and the writers. That's the beauty of when you're doing a series, that it becomes this really fun collaboration with the writers where, they write something and they have an image, but then it lands in an actor, and hopefully it metamorphosizes and it changes a little bit or becomes something more. And then, hopefully the writers, see that and lets their vision get affected by what's sort of happening on the ground. And then it becomes this creative, like interwoven process that can really create something that's very alive, that you can't access on a movie, because then it's, you do one thing there, and on a show you do something for 6 months, and then there's an editing process, and then it gets to breathe. Everyone gets to stop and think, and then you get to see what actually happened, and then you keep building. So it's really fun to be able to do both of those things. It's storytelling. You
learn a lot about yourself through your process, and your process also evolves with every project. Like, I'm sure there's things you've taken from past projects that you bring to the next one. There's also maybe behaviors that you've shed over the course of the time. You've had so many memorable scene partners over the course of your career.
Yeah.
Are there any particular methods to the madness that you've watched firsthand that you've maybe not necessarily borrowed from, but you've experimented with how they approach characters? I
had this thing where I really wanted to work with Nick Cage.
Sympathy for the Devil.
Yeah,
killer film.
And I thought that movie was great, but my experience from it, I actually realized that I had this sort of idea of why I wanted to work with him, because I find him to be like one of the like bravest and craziest actors of our time, and I felt like I've always been more in the sort of understated, I just want to be really truthful to the situation, and I think sometimes maybe I don't take enough risk in doing that. So that's why when I looked at Nick and I just see his characters and what he does with the characters, I'm like, that's so different from what I do. And sometimes I also see like an actor like Tom Hardy, for example. I also think he does
Child 44, right?
Yeah. And he also like does really big choices, and with both of them, sometimes it doesn't always work 100%, but then when it hits, it like hits really hard. And I think I wanted to like see that up front a little bit. So working with Nick, and he's like just as advertised. Oh my God, he's the best.
It's a pretty intimate atmosphere on that film too. You're both like in the
It's
car.
just me and him in a car,
Yeah.
So I love Nick, and I think I revere him as an actor, and I feel like I got the rub a little bit from him. You say that thing in fighting where people when they fight someone great. Even though they lose, they kind of get the rub. They get to feel the greatness, and then in their next performance, they carry a little bit with them. And I think I did that a little bit. I think I got a little braver from working with Nick and just seeing how he approaches it. And I think I have shifted a little bit in how I sort of look at work, and I think I'm going to fail a little bit more moving forward.
Yeah, that's how we learn.
I think I'm going to like do things that might not like always hit. I might overplay it a little bit,
Joel Kinnaman, you're the man. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.